Sounds good.
I'm ready.
Okay. You know, it's important to remember that our bodies are way more complex than a petri dish.
Right.
So while this study gives us like a glimpse into Chaga's potential, we can't just like jump to conclusions about how it'll work in a real-world setting. Because there are so many other factors that come into play when we talk about human health.
Absolutely.
It's not just about isolated cells and specific markers.
Exactly. For instance, this study focused on just a handful of inflammatory markers.
Okay.
But in the human body, inflammation is like a chain reaction.
Right.
It involves like countless pathways and molecules.
And then there's the whole question of dosage, like how often you take chaga.
Right.
And how each individual's metabolism might affect things.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about, potential interactions with medications or pre-existing health conditions. There are just so many variables to consider.
But the study mentioned specific phenolic compounds.
Yes.
That were especially potent.
Yes. Caffeic acid, protocatachoic acid, and protocatachoic aldehyde.
Wow, those are some big words.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But these three really stood out in their ability to reduce those key inflammatory markers.
Is there something special about those particular compounds? Like, why are they so effective?
That's a great question, and it's something researchers are still exploring.
Okay.
But we do know that different phenolic compounds have unique chemical structures, which influence how they interact with cellular pathways.
So it's like each compound has its own way of tackling inflammation.
Precisely. And this highlights the importance of looking beyond just the total amount of phenolics in a chaga extract. We need to understand the specific types present and their individual strengths.
That makes me wonder if that's why some people seem to get better results with chaga than others.
Yeah.
Maybe it has to do with the specific compounds they're getting.
That's certainly a possibility, and it underscores the need for personalized approaches to health and wellness.
Right.
What works for one person may not work for another.
That brings us back to the importance of doing more research with humans.
Yes.
To see how these findings play out in real life.
Absolutely. We need to bridge the gap between these promising lab results and practical applications for people dealing with inflammation.
Okay, so we've covered the phenolic compounds.
Yes.
But what about those carbohydrates we were talking about earlier?
Right.
What role do they play in Chaga's anti-inflammatory action?
Well, that's another area that needs further investigation. But remember how we talked about complex carbohydrates having immunomodulatory effects?
Right. They can help regulate the immune system, but doesn't go into overdrive.
Exactly. And some researchers believe that the polysaccharides in chaga could be contributing to its anti-inflammatory properties by calming down that immune response.
So it's like a two-pronged attack.
Yeah.
We've got those phenolic compounds acting as antioxidants.
Right.
And potentially those carbohydrates working behind the scenes. To modulate the immune system.
It's a fascinating interplay.
It is.
And it just goes to show how much we still have to learn about the complexities of natural remedies.
I'm also curious about the studies finding that powdered chaga was more potent than the bagged form.
Right.
What's the takeaway for someone who's thinking about incorporating chaga into their routine?
Well, as we discussed earlier, the powdered form likely has a greater surface area, allowing for more of those beneficial compounds to be extracted. So if you're looking to maximize the potential anti-inflammatory benefits, powdered chaga might be the way to go.
And the P6 method.
Yes.
Steeping powdered chaga in boiling water for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Seems like a simple and effective way to prepare it at home.
Exactly. It's a great example of how traditional practices often have a scientific basis.
It's like the best of both worlds, ancient wisdom combined with modern research.
Exactly.
But we always need to remember that natural doesn't necessarily mean safe or effective for everyone.
Right. It's crucial to do your research. Consult with healthcare professionals and listen to your body.
Right. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this study, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that chaga holds promising potential as an anti-inflammatory agent. But more research is needed to fully understand its effects in humans.
So it sounds like we're at like a really exciting point with chaga research.
Yeah.
We've got these intriguing findings from lab studies, and now we need to see how they translate to real-world applications for people who are dealing with inflammation.
It's like we've got this treasure map, and now we're setting off on the expedition to find the buried treasure.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? What are the next steps in chaga research?
Well, the obvious next step is to move from cells in a dish to
Well,
humans.
right.
We need well-designed clinical trials
Mm-hmm.
to see if chaga lives up to its potential in a real-world setting.
Okay, so what would those trials look like?
Well, they would involve recruiting people with specific inflammatory conditions,
Okay.
like arthritis
Mm-hmm.
or inflammatory bowel disease. Okay.
And then giving them different doses of chaga extract over a period of time.
Got it. And they'd track their symptoms,
Right.
measure those inflammatory markers we talked about,
Yeah.
and see if there's a real improvement.
Exactly. And those trials would need to be carefully controlled
Right.
to make sure that any benefits they see are actually due to the chaga
Right.
and not some other factor.
Because people's bodies are so complex.
Right.
There's so many variables that could influence the results.
Exactly. That's why rigorous scientific methods are so important.
Yeah.
We need to be able to separate the hype from the genuine therapeutic potential of chaga.
Okay, so clinical trials are crucial.
Yes.
But what about other areas of research? Like, what else do we need to learn about chaga?
Well, we need to delve deeper into those specific mechanisms of action.
Okay.
Like how exactly do those phenolic compounds and carbohydrates interact with the immune system?
Right, because it's one thing to know that something works,
Mm-hmm.
but it's even more powerful to understand why it works. Exactly. And that deeper understanding could lead to even more targeted
Okay.
and effective ways to use chaga for therapeutic purposes.
We also need to look at the long-term safety
Yes.
and potential side effects of chaga use.
Absolutely. Just because something is natural
Right.
doesn't mean it's completely harmless.
Exactly.
We need to understand the potential risks as well as the benefits.
I know some people are already using chaga on their own, whether as a pea
Right.
or in supplement form.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give them?
I would say it's always best to consult with a healthcare professional
Yeah,
before starting any new supplement.
right.
Even something as seemingly benign as chaga.
Right, because they can help you determine the appropriate dosage,
Mm-hmm.
monitor for any potential interactions with medications,
Right.
and just make sure it's the right fit for your individual health needs.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about taking a personalized approach to health and wellness.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of chaga and inflammation.
It's been a pleasure to explore this fascinating topic with you.
We've learned that chaga holds real promise as a natural remedy for inflammation.
Yes.
But more research is needed to confirm its efficacy and safety in humans.
Absolutely. And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey.
Mhm.
As more research emerges, we'll gain an even deeper understanding of this incredible fungus.
Right.
And its potential to support our well-being.
So as you continue your own exploration of chaga,
Yeah.
stay curious, stay informed,
Yes.
and always consult with qualified healthcare professionals for personalized guidance.
And remember, the most powerful tool you have in your health journey is your own critical thinking. Don't be afraid to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and seek out multiple perspectives.
That's great advice for all of us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of chaga